hello tellers who will be joining us and anybody else. I signed in a couple minutes early in case I had some early comers, so it's already recording. I'm Heidi Bayer. I am a member of the Teller community. I'm a psychotherapist in Orlando, Florida, and I've been a part of Teller for the past year and following my heart to write more and more. And we are here today to talk about the awakened woman, Dr. Tererai Trent. So here comes somebody. Let's see who it is. Oh my gosh, it's Rebecca. Rebecca, you have to unmute yourself if you know how to do that. Hi. So happy you've made it. And then you have to start your camera. I don't know how you're going to do that either, because there should be like a video button at the bottom that says start video.
Okay, let's see.
And if I can't see you on camera, I mean, maybe you can see me. Can you see me?
You know what I might have to do is, Heidi, is sign on again, because it happens sometimes. Wait, sometimes it kicks in. Press save or double click.
Sometimes it works better for people through their phone if their computer is wacky about it.
Let me try to sign in again.
Yeah.
Did you already start the meeting?
Oh no, you're the first person, and so people should start just like coming in.
Okay, I'm gonna try to start it again.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna make sure my computer has a battery. All right, so that was our first guest. She should be coming back. I think that is Michelle's mother, which is really awesome. Again, it's Heidi Bayer here. I'm zooming in from my home art and writing studio. I'm a full-time therapist, part-time artist, part-time writer. And this book about remembering and igniting our sacred dreams has really lit a fire under me to get back into my writing and continue also with my making of art, because gosh, I love it so much. So here's some more people. There's Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, you made it. Oh, here comes Tala. And you can unmute yourself again, Rebecca. And Tala, you have to unmute yourself, sweetie.
Hiya.
Yay! Hi there.
Hello.
It's late for you, right?
It is. It's 12. It's midnight. It's the magic hour.
It is the magic hour. Wow. Well, we are blessed by your presence. It's good to see you.
Too.
And Rebecca, where are you coming in from?
Arizona, Heidi.
Wow.
Tala?
Tala.
Tala. Nice.
Wonderful.
London.
Yeah, Tala's in London. So we thought that maybe doing a later in the afternoon in North America would scoop up some people in the Southern Hemisphere. But I don't know. We're just, trying to offer things. They are trying to offer things at different times. When I was talking to Jill, I'm like, I can do it whenever I'm free. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jen. You might have to, you're going to connect to audio. And you have to unmute yourself. It like automatically muted people when they signed in.
I have a very noisy puppy, so I'm probably just going to mute myself.
Oh, okay.
And unmute when I talk, okay?
That's okay, yeah.
He's squeaky over there.
Jen, where are you zooming in from, by the way? I forgot.
Corona, California.
California, nice. And we've got
the evening there, or it's the day?
It's 4 o'clock, 4 p.m.
So 1600, yeah. And Lisa's connecting. Lisa, you're gonna have to connect yourself. You're gonna have to unmute yourself when you get in here. I know we're waiting for Cindy as well.
I was just thinking of one of those.
She's trying to get in. Well, hi Lisa, welcome. Happy that you can join us. Lisa, remind us where you're zooming in from. You have to unmute yourself.
New Jersey.
Oh, that's right. Good to see you. Well, I know there are potentially other people who are going to come in, which will be nice. And you know, you can keep it on a gallery view. You can keep yourself unmuted if you like. That's fine with me, because I'm really hopeful that we'll just have a discussion about the book and about the topic. So even if you haven't read the book, you're gonna be able to chime in on this. Oh yeah, Cindy made it. Cindy. And
How does the recording work? Will they see us all, or do they just see you?
Well, that's a great question. I think I set it to be gallery view, but it could only record speaker view. Okay. It is a mystery to me what happens when it
Instagram. I'm gonna know everything I say.
Yeah, people will hear what you say if you're okay with that. You are being recorded. Yeah. Do you give permission for us to record you? Hi, Cindy. I'm happy you made it. It looks like Sky's trying to get in too, so that's good. Well, we are all here to discuss The Awakened Woman by Dr. Tererai Trent. And wow, I have been listening to the audio version of the book. And then I had to buy a hard copy so I could underline stuff, because that's how my brain works. I want to write in a book and underline it, but I can listen to it faster when I'm just futzing around the house or driving. How many folks have read or listened to any portion of the beginning of the book so far?
I think I'm on chapter 5 or 6.
End of the first chapter, where they've just come to the first assignment, which we kind of touched on in the other book club.
Yeah, you know, what I was thinking is, yeah, like this is not, it's the content of the beginning of the book is not unfamiliar to us. Oh good, my friend Lisa is here. Lisa Wagner, she's an artist. Hi Lisa, and she's coming to us from upstate New York, I think. We're trying to, I'd like to know where people are geographically when they come in. So if you want to unmute yourself or put yourself on video, that's fine. If you need to take yourself off video, that's fine too. But yeah, so in the Teller community, we have used some of the prompts. Like in the writing salon, we've used the prompt of what baton do you want to drop? You know, what story do you want to awaken? And last week on Saturday, if you haven't seen it, Dr. Tererai Trent joined the Teller community for a little bit over an hour and spoke about what the Great Hunger is, which is the beginning of her book. And that's really where she was talking about how all of us have this hunger for a meaningful life. And she encourages us to ask ourselves to listen to what breaks our heart. And by that, she also means, what do you have a heartache about? And that helps us guide us towards what's your life purpose, or to help you become the person that you're meant to be, to reach your full potential. Last week, did anybody do some writing about that they wanted to share an insight about that? Like this idea of a great hunger, of coming to realize that you've got some purpose or something that's driving you deep inside, something that you've been longing for or feel called toward.
Just checking my my notebook from last week to see.
Oh, good, yeah.
There is.
Oh, Alice is coming in. That's nice. She's up late too. She's also in England. So we've got some folks zooming in from England. We're happy to see you. Hi, Alice. Welcome. I know it's late there. It's beautiful to have you with us. Oh, and Sky has made it. That's good. Hi, Sky. So we're talking about the first chapter, this idea of a great hunger, that idea of every one of us actually has something that we're drawn toward. For years and years and years, I did not do anything about becoming creative, even though I yearned in my heart to be a creative person. In 8th grade, my art teacher said, "You're very bad at that." And I was like, And I could see the kid next to me could draw a motorcycle perfectly. And mine, she didn't even know what I was trying to draw. I don't know what I was trying to draw either, but she's like, it's pretty bad. And so I just tucked away that desire. I tried to ignore it for a really long time. But then I really couldn't ignore it. 7 years ago, at the age of 49, I took my first art class. And that year I had 3 art shows later that year. Because I was just having fun. There were these little art shows at these little, like, you know, the coffee shop that I go to. They're like, do you want to put your art up here? And I was like, oh, yes, I do. You know, it was just fun. It was just fun. And following that gave me clues of, I want to get better at following my joy, because when I follow my joy, other surprising things unfold. And I realized in my life as a therapist, teaching people about healing what hurts inside their hearts was also about uncovering. And so when you heal what hurts in your heart, what does it help you know that you want to do? Does that make sense to folks?
Yes, all the sense.
Yeah. So that's an example I have of like returning to art, returning to writing. I hadn't written poems since childhood until the Teller community, you know, last year's Teller challenges of writing 1 poem a month, and I wrote 4. I was like, that's 4 more than I normally write. That was great. And I wrote a lot more in this past year. So those are some things I was longing for. Does anybody have an example they'd like to share of what they've been recognizing their hearts have been longing for?
Yeah, I think mine is. Oh, do you want to go, Lisa?
Go ahead, Tala, then Lisa.
So I'm an actor, so I came to sort of my creative space earlier, about 18. I was like, got to act. That's what I want to do. And so I've been creative through a lot of people's work for years, and I've loved that. And they always tell actors, especially when you're not working, oh, just write your own stuff. And I always was like, I don't have a story to tell. Nothing's ever happened in my life. I really feel like nothing has ever happened in my life. And then recently, well, from last year doing the poetry, I was like, why don't I write a poem a day that I've got nothing else to do? Even though I had never even been into poetry. And then since then, that's brought me to go, oh no, I want to write. And I've just finished my first draft of my first pilot, like today.
Oh, wow.
And when we were talking about what breaks our heart, it really was about actually not being listened to, either myself, you know, if you're in a room, even if you've been invited to a room and people aren't hearing you, and then just on the wider scale of like, the person with the loudest voice is the person that's listened to. So, you know, we have, you know, you've had it with Trump, a lot of you in America, we've got Boris Johnson, and we've got these loud male voices that are very loud, and because they're very loud, people are listening to them. Mm-hmm. And there's sort of good people that aren't being listened to, and different people of, you know, trans people or LGBTQ or Black people, you know, people that just aren't being heard and their stories aren't being told. And I think I've always been attracted to stories, which is where my career is, but now I'm kind of like, I think I need to go deeper into that with writing, but also hopefully one day I can produce other people's stories. And I'm like, I'm very much feeling like there's just way more voices that need to be heard, or need to have a platform to be heard. I think that's where I'm going.
Love
especially
it.
When I was asked that question recently.
I love that. Not being listened to is a heartbreak.
And I'm hearing that a lot, I think, as well, in this kind of group, and the poems that are coming forward and the writers salon. Underneath it, there's a lot of needing to be heard, and people that haven't. poetry, or to themselves, or just journaling, or whatever it is. And things are, I can see all these women kind of brightening and growing just by people listening to them, or just for them writing down their own thoughts and daring to listen to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that's where I'm at, I think.
Jennifer, did you have a comment on that? That's fantastic, Tala.
It was fantastic. I'll wait until Lisa is done.
Okay, great.
I love women. We're so polite.
Oh, so Tala, wow, really true what you're saying about the need for our voices to be heard. I'm going to go back in time a little bit, maybe 10 years ago or a little bit longer. I was very, very sad in my life and really struggling. And I realized that, I don't know if you're familiar with the Shel Silverstein book on Looking for My Missing Piece, but I realized that was kind of the theme of my life. It's a lovely children's story about a circle that has a pie piece missing piece. Sometimes it finds a piece that's too big, but then when it finds a piece that's too big, it can't roll around and see the world. And then it finds a piece that's too small and it rolls too fast and it can't sing anymore. It's a lovely, lovely story about searching for your missing piece. And I kind of took it on as a theme. And I was going to search for my missing piece. And I
hope this is still working. My internet says it's unstable.
Full of joy because I was so sad. And I went to the gym, and after I did my workout, plodding back to the car, like you're doing your thing that you do every day, and it's not special or unique or anything. And I got in the car and I flipped on the classical channel, and coincidentally, they were playing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a lot of times when you see theme movies about New York, they'll play Gershwin in the background. Gershwin's music is very like jazzy and funky and fun. But this particular piece has this long, gigantic crescendo arpeggio kind of thing at the beginning. And it's like, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, and I'm conducting in my car. And I said, oh my gosh, I found it in that minute. I was like, oh yes, I love music. And, I'm losing my hearing. And so I'm really struggling with that particular history of my deafness and my music, and how I really do love music. And it really does bring me that kind of happiness and joy. And now, how can I maintain it for as long as possible? And so there's another story that I love by Leone. I forget his first name. It's about a little mouse that memorizes the spring so that when they're all in hibernation, he can tell them the story of spring so that it keeps them. Oh, it's a lovely story. I'll remember it and I'll tell you guys. But so I'm thinking of that. So I'm making that my thing now, to kind of like take those hearing snapshots of music that I love and stuff like that, to kind of just enjoy that piece of my life. So that's my story for that.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow, that's beautiful, Lisa. That is being able to connect to that thing. You felt it in your whole body. Yeah, that really resonated.
Jane McGonigal wrote a book about that particular experience, and she calls it Fiero. It's the thing that's in us that's kind of like in the mammalian part of your brain, and all of us do the same thing where we throw our arms up and jump up in the air like this. And she calls it Fiero, and that's that experience of like pure bliss or pure joy.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Jen, and then Cindy.
I relate to what both of you are saying so much. I want to read this poem that I submitted for the 10 that Azure asked about. And I love music also. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is there too much music in my writing? Will anybody get this? These days, I rise in the stillness of the dark. The light and the greeting of the bird is ever so sweet. My heart was broken, and it healed so gloriously. I leaned into the pain, romanticized it. It drove me, almost as much as desire. Watch me, I said. Life has kicked me, pummeled me into oblivion. I learned how to mend this tapestry with golden silks. I learned how to love my voice again the way I did before they broke me. Our collective chorus would shatter the world. That thought brings me delight and joy. Everyone's rapture vibrating within, singing to the same syncopated rhythms, the same fortes, the same piano. One does not know the impact of a whisper sung. Oh, the anticipation of what's to come. We will sing together. Our parts, our harmonies have so much to say. So I kind of feel like it's intertwined with what you guys were saying. And I do have this big desire to leap into the creative world from the corporate world. And it's so funny because there are just so many roadblocks for me, and I'm sure so many other people, because of racial inequity, or, you know, all the corporate leaders that are your typical corporate America, right? Ivy League, Caucasian males. My daughter is a mixed race teenager, and I came back from a work event and showed her pictures, and she's like, Mom, you're the only woman on your team. And then she's like, and all your coworkers are middle-aged white men. I'm just like, oh my God.
I love that generation is noticing that, though. I love that generation is noticing that, though.
Yeah,
that's a little bit different.
At our dining table, we talk a lot about inclusivity, and my daughter is very sensitive to, you know, diversity and LGBTQ. And we talk about everything. And so it's kind of interesting. They have this diversity fellowship going on at my work that I can apply for. That could actually be my job, is fighting for equal rights and the livelihood of other people that are not within my company. I'm like, that's kind of exciting. I never even thought about that. Like, I wouldn't have to leave the company to do that. So We'll see.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for sharing that beautiful poem. I had to write down one of the lines, the impact of a whisper sung. That line was just, and this opportunity, you have to keep us posted if you're going to really consider that or do that.
I definitely want to consider it. I also would like to publish a collection of my poems or a novel, but I just have to buckle down and get focused.
Well, you know, and it's this thing that, you know, these first 4 chapters, really what Tererai is encouraging us is, she's talking about recognizing your hunger, being able to be okay with saying your dreams out loud, recognizing that you have dreams, and to be able to say them out loud, to plant your dreams and to speak them. So I love that you're investigating this and wondering, like, maybe is this something I want to do? I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Cindy, you want to share?
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's Jen, that's great. All of your stories are inspiring to me. And today, actually, just when I came on, I just had that aha moment, because when we were talking last week about what breaks your heart, and I think all of us had kind of the same thing, where you know, people are feeling lonely and alone and isolated, and felt like I needed to help in some way, but I realized I'm already doing that. And that came right in my face today, just before I came on, just work. So it's just a really heavy day. Um, ended really heavy for me. That someone called in crisis. It was a suicide call. Didn't start that way, but the more we got into the conversation, the more he felt comfortable talking to me, and that nobody in his life ever heard him. He didn't have anyone, no one saw him. All the things that we've been talking about, all just like was right there. And I said, I hear you, I'm listening. And it just, whew. So anyway, one thing led to another, and I was able to connect someone with him, and then received a call back that he was safe, and that he was being looked after. And that's how my day ended just a little bit ago.
Wow, Cindy.
So, and just the feedback of the um, mental health worker that was working with him tonight, that, you know, I followed what I thought was right, and what needed, followed my heart, I guess, in that moment, and felt his call. So I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And what's interesting is that my writing and my art, and I'm paint, and I realize my writing has changed a lot. And I think for me, it's a real balance. So one feeds the other. I'm able to wholly give myself to my work and what I'm there. I know I'm there to, I know I'm there for, I need to be there. And I know that when I'm not there, then it comes out in my art, or I'm able to still feel joy and still feel me. But I think I'm becoming that, you know, that whole person that is there for both. Does that make sense? I can't even put that into words, but
You're doing a great job.
yeah. So thank you.
You're doing a great job expressing that. Yeah.
So anyway, that's so, and reading this book, it's just also hearing her speak. And I've listened to her 3 times. That was the 3rd time with Teller, or with us, and with Azure. And then before last year, and I wrote this book down, but I never got around to ordering it. But she captured me, like she just captured my heart. And every single time the 3 times, she just captured my heart in the same way. Like I've heard the story before, but it's different. It's captivating. She captivates you. Like, and so just reading this book and her story, at first, it was just really, I couldn't read it all at once. I had to put it down because it was her story is just, you know, the abuse and all of that. So just, you know, putting it down and taking a breath, and then now reading it. And after she talked to us the other day, and when she said, you know, don't feel sorry for me, I have to tell this story. So now I'm reading it in a different way. I'm reading it in her voice. I hear her voice so it's it's really awakened something in me, I guess you can say. Yeah. So that's all for now.
Cindy, thanks for sharing that perspective too. And thank you for the work that you do. You really made a difference in that person's life today. I mean, I know you're making a difference in people's lives every day with the work you do.
Thank you.
and it can sometimes feel like so much. So I'm happy that you have some art and creativity to balance you out.
Yeah, and it's not like this kind of crisis doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
In little bits maybe, or a little conversations, but not as heavy as this all the time. So yeah, but just being there for people and to listen to people and to listen, just hear them and just tell them I hear you. Just like I'm listening and I hear everyone that speaks, and it's really warms my heart.
Well, you're getting some beautiful affirmations in the chat, Cindy. So definitely take a look at that. It's really beautiful to see. And I think that's one of the things that I love about this Teller community is that we are often, there's Jill.
That's a bummer. My son wanted to do it, but he wanted to do volleyball with Miss Lowen. So
Jill, I wonder if she meant to unmute herself.
Maybe you don't do it.
I'm going to mute her. Because she said she's with her kids and there's all kinds of stuff happening. So that's what we were just hearing, her family life there. I was going to say, one of the things I know that y'all feel the same way probably is that we comment on each other's work, but in the things that people are writing and sharing we're sharing about our lives. There's been so much there have been so many stories told in our writing salon and in the poetry and the prose that people have shared. People are really using their voice, and that's what she's talking about. And each chapter she has these sacred rituals, a sacred ritual for finding your great hunger, a sacred ritual for, in the second chapter, reclaiming your voice. And the end of each chapter has these beautiful instructions on what you could meditate on, what you could think about, what you could say a prayer for or about, and then what you could write about. And I think, that's what's been happening in this Teller community is we have people who have been using their voice. We have been reclaiming our voice, and she just gives even more, I guess, poignant direction or instruction when she says, be clear in recognizing like the things you've lived through have shaped you. How has your past shaped you? What are your soul wounds? She asks. And do you want to keep handing that down? Right? Or as she's talked about the baton, she's like, I'm not handing this baton down anymore. I'm not going to keep handing down the legacy of childhood, marriages and poverty and illiteracy. So she figured out her great hunger. And she's asking us, what is it? What's happened inside you that's made you want this thing? Does anybody feel struck with that question of what's the bigger purpose in yourself that your desires are aligned with? Does anybody have a thought on that? Or feeling like the dream you have, it maybe does get aligned with others somehow, it gets aligned with a greater community, or and it might be the community that's in your home or your friendship community, your family, or it could be a bit wider,
I believe that there's that line that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That idea that we all kind of, that's kind of the synergy of life, right? We all kind of walk into each other's world at a time when we're going to bring about the next great thing for each other. Sometimes we don't see it that way. I know for me, sometimes it comes in the form of disaster, and then you're finding your way through this tragedy, and it brings you to this other level of self-knowledge or self-awareness or awareness about life or something. Last year I was struggling with I was trying to keep my home from my ex-husband from taking it. And so there was this big battle going on all the time, and he was just vicious and unhappy person. And so I just kept focusing on what was going to make me feel happy. And my therapist said to me, why don't you garden? Now, if you knew anything about me, you'd know that I grew up in Brooklyn, in Coney Island. There was no gardening for me in my life at all, ever. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can do that thing, that gardening thing. She said, oh, just try it. Get some flowers and stick them in the ground. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I found that I really loved it and actually have an affinity for it. So it was like so much fun to pick my own herbs that I grew last year. And I planted things last year that bloomed this year. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like stuff grows.
He literally planted your dreams.
Right. But meanwhile, I was born out of that horrible experience with my ex-husband, that constant conflict, that constant fighting. And this was the thing that came out of that. So I think that synergy of life where, you know, you're like all of us are together in the Teller community for the right reason. Whatever that reason is for us, it's the right reason for us. And we're all coming together, bringing about this beautiful process and this beautiful thing. And I think that's how the universe works. My 2 cents.
I agree.
I'm in 100% agreement on that, Lisa. And here's Cindy saying yes. Anybody else is in agreement? We got a lot of nodding heads there, Lisa. It's beautifully said. Like we've all been drawn here for something. So there's a spiritual teacher I follow, and they talk about how there's a co-creative experience happening. We're co-creating right now, right? We're co-creating in that group of the writing salon. We're co-creating on the Teller page.
Right.
It's a fun experience to notice that. Yeah. It's all, yeah, the whole year feels like synergy. Yeah. And I see Lisa said, she said, if I didn't do my work, I felt like I couldn't breathe and did what I want for myself, and those would have to be around me. That would be, what would they be reduced to? I want to be a good example to my family. Yeah. So when you follow what you love, like it helps you. You're talking, Lisa, you just said like, you started gardening and you're like, I don't know about gardening. I grew up in concrete. but here you allowed yourself to wonder about it. Like it sounds like you allowed like a playful attitude towards it.
Just put them in the ground amazingly. Somehow the plants know what to do. You don't have to teach them anything. It's just like, it's great.
That's really cool.
It's a real fun experience. For me, it's been a very, very fun experience. So.
Yeah.
And I don't look at my garden and think, and I'm in the house of all the terrors of that marriage. I'm still in that house because I wasn't ready to leave. And I converted it into my house so much so that when I had family over before COVID and they saw all the changes I made, is this really the same house? It doesn't look like the same house. And I think it's about sage and my own energy. And then like just becoming awakened to my own truth and going through that process. So yeah, I couldn't go on and on, but I won't.
Well, I love it that you've connected to, you know, what you want and you're doing something different.
It's fun.
Yeah. Would you guys like to just hear a little bit more about, like, that was like chapter 2 in the book talks about this idea of reclaiming your voice. Do you want my little notes about each chapter, or what would be helpful for those who haven't read it?
Sure, that would be great.
Would that be helpful, Jen? Yeah? Okay, Lisa says yeah. I liked in chapter 2 when, and if anybody else has something that they've read in those chapters, a quote or something that stands out, please feel free to chime in. But I liked this question that she had where she says, what are the words that define or limit you? And I was like, ooh, what words define me and what words limit me? What are the words you do not have yet? And what are the words or what silences your dreams? Where have you hidden your girlhood hopes and dreams?
Did you say what silences your dreams?
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the quotes in there. She's asking. And I thought about, you know, for me, I was like, gosh, I had a childhood dream about I've been drawing flowers in my notebooks and everywhere, like the little poem I posted today. I've been drawing flowers everywhere since I was a child. I have an affinity for birds and flowers. And if I let myself out, say that again.
Thank God Azure's not here. Birds again.
Oh, I know. Don't tell Azure. Yeah, we already. That day, that was so funny. I know she does not like them. I might convince her sometime. They're so cute. I really love cartoon birds.
I'm a bird lover.
Oh, you are?
That's where Jenny took her, to a group of women that she inspires, and they adore her, but they all love birds.
Oh yes, we are going to be her healing force for the bird.
That'd be a funny poem. We should collaborate on a poem about birds.
That would be fun.
Yeah, just for her, like a secret poem. Let's do it together.
Aren't there a bird in Australia that like literally attack the bikers?
Oh, I don't know.
Are they magpies?
A poem about that won't.
Yeah, we'll have to.
That's horrible.
I'm sure that doesn't happen, Azure. I'm sure that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But yeah, so it's an interesting question. Where have you hidden your girlhood hopes and dreams? Wherever they are. And do you allow yourself to pursue any of those kinds of things in whatever way pleases you? I remember in college or after college, watching, this was after college, and I was waiting tables at a restaurant, and David Byrne's movie Burning Down the House came out, and it was him singing his whole album. But in the background were these beautiful women singers, and I'm like, I want to be a background singer. Me too. I'm like, I want to be a background singer. Oh my God. And I only sound great, apparently, to myself.
Me too.
I sound awesome in my car. When I mow, I sound amazing. I sound like Adele. Or Patty Griffin. It's like it's stunning. It's so incredible. But my girlhood dream of like being a singer, I actually let myself fulfill that when I mow,
Yes.
you know, or in the morning, and I sing and chant. I quietly, because my husband's sleeping. But if he's not there, sometimes I'll just be like singing. Here's Lisa saying she thought she'd be Tina Turner or something. Let me see. Be Tina Turner's backup singer. Yeah. So maybe you're following a childhood hope or dream in some way that just brings you pure delight. That doesn't have to be right, like this big life purpose, but like you let it in. You let it in somehow, just for the fun of it. So I think that's a fun thing to think about. She talked in chapter 2 about reclaiming your voice, understanding that there's been women are silenced like from day one, forever all around the world. But so she's like, pay attention to what's silenced you and what do you want to be able to speak about. So she really talks about that in chapter 2. And in chapter 3 is when she goes into that beautiful story of planting your dream. And if you guys listened to her and Azure, I think on the live, they talked about this. And I think she talked about it with Jill last week as well, about this planting of the dream. And here's a quote that I pulled out. Oh my gosh. Studies show again and again that women in most cultures are socialized to question their voices and distrust their bodies. How's that for a downer of a quote? I was just like, well, no wonder. But then I'm going to read this to you real quick. It's from page 44 in the paperback, where she talks about planting seeds for change. She says, beloved sister, in order to give birth to what lies down in the depths of your being, you will need rootedness and groundedness. In order to give birth to what lies in the depths of your being, you'll need rootedness and groundedness. So to be able to sort of excavate that deep desire. So she's like, yeah, you need to be rooted and grounded. And you need a ritual that centers you from all the chores and the soul wounds and the subtle and not so subtle silencing of the world. So she's essentially saying, you're going to have to find a place that's quiet and safe, and you're going to need to help yourself feel rooted and grounded. And she says, I often meet people who, in my travels, who feel depressed or angry inside. And she says, it's probably because you have not yet created a strong platform for your dreams. And I would say, or created a safe space to explore them. And so her mother gave her this counsel that I thought was so incredible. Her mother said, I want you to trust the universe to honor your dreams. I was definitely using a highlighter in my book when I saw that. Trust the universe to honor your dreams. And then her mother said, what you want to become will change how you see the world around you. I thought that was so interesting. What you want to become will change how you see the world around you. And then she gave that really important counsel that every dream has a greater meaning when tied to the betterment of the community. This is what creates a meaningful life. So her book really asks lots of questions and invites us to be able to take lots of quiet time to sit with the book, to create rituals of centering ourselves, of taking time to prepare for what she calls sacred soul writing. She's like, listen, you're going to want to clear away your clutter. Like the space behind me, part of the couch is cluttered with paper, which I know that, what's that woman who does the declutter your house?
Marie
Kondo. Oof, boy,
Kondo, yeah.
she'd be like, Heidi, just throw it away. But so there's paper over there, but there's a side of it that's like cleaned out. And then my meditation space is nice and clean. But she's like, get into a place where it's like away from clutter. She says, shower, dress yourself like a goddess. She's like, pamper yourself a little bit. Like really, if you're going to explore your soul dreams and figure out what they are and start to write them down, she's like, I want you to take care of yourself first. Take time to really be kind to yourself, and then ask yourself that Mary Oliver question. What is your plan? What do you want to do with your one wild and precious life? What is it that you plan to do? And then she says, yeah, you want to plant your dreams. She says, bury them. In her country, in her culture, it was you bury or plant your dreams. But she's like, yeah, you're going to want to feel grounded and safe as you get comfortable with your dreams, because when you start to know your dreams and envision them, you're going to start to take up a little bit more space in the world. So she's like, I want you to practice grounding yourself, practice being safe in whatever way that is. So she gives really beautiful breathing and meditation advice. It's such a gentle book, and I love listening to it because you can listen to her tell it to you. And of course I love reading it because I want to underline everything too. But has anybody done this before, where before you've sat to write, that you kind of get yourself in this like kind of like sacred space? Has anybody ever done that before?
I did the yoga for writers workshop with Caroline, which was really great. And I came out of it with a really great poem, I thought. And I do yoga on my own a lot, but for some reason, I don't know why, I never thought to do yoga and then writing and then yoga and writing. I just never thought of that. I don't know why, but it was pretty amazing how it opened me up to my thoughts and my intuition, because it seems to be when I really want to sit down and like, okay, today I'm starting the novel, it's just not happening. It just doesn't happen that way. But, you know, after a walk or after yoga was a good time, I think.
I like that. That you shared that, because I'm like, oh yeah, that happened for me too. When I did the yoga and writing workshop, every time I've done a yoga and writing workshop, something comes out of it. And just feel the inspiration and the clarity, like everything else has fallen away. But like you, Jen, I do yoga and I'm like, I'm coming home and I'm not hitting the pen to paper or whatever. So, but I like make it, but that's a really good thing that you just said that, because it makes me go, maybe I could too. So thank you.
I think that that's born out of the mindfulness of the intent. So when you're doing the yoga workshop for writing purpose, right? That's your mindfulness and that's your purpose. So when you're in that situation, you're doing the writing post the yoga, so it kind of generates itself. You know, I think it's the mindfulness of intention that brings that about. I can find myself, like what you were saying, Jen. I think it's so funny and so true. I'm going to sit down and write that chapter today. It's never going to. It's almost like you're pushing it away when you do that. You're saying, this is the time. It will happen now. But I've done things where I've said, I'm going to take a 30-minute meditation and I'm going to just write right after my meditation. And I'm just going to make that part of my thing. And sometimes I sit down and the very first thing I write is I have nothing to say. Do not know why I made this discipline for myself. This is a pain in the ass. But over time, what I've learned is that I get that out of the way and then miraculously things come. So I think it's intention. That's my 2 cents on that, Heidi. But I agree with you. It's you find yourself doing things like go to your yoga class and then you come home and cook dinner. You don't think that there's a connection between that mind and body experience.
It's great to see you, Maya. Happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm so late, but I'm happy to be
sweetie.
here.
That's all right. Lisa was just having this great noticing for us, which is like, if we're not tying something to an intention, we might not do it. So we were talking about how the yoga for writing workshops have been creatively stimulating, but both Jen and I were saying, like, but normally when we do yoga, we're not just like coming home and busting out pen to paper or whatever. But Lisa's like, yeah, but if you maybe, tie that intention, sit and meditate to write, do some yoga with the intention of, after my yoga practice, I'm going to give myself 10 or 15 minutes. So maybe, pre-intent, I don't think that's actually a word, but you know what I mean.
It is now.
It is now.
I'm going to be using it all the time.
Pre-intent. I wanted to, if we have, and we do have a little bit of time, the 4th chapter of her book, I was so excited to listen to and to read. And she talks about awakening to be your own storyteller. And she starts the chapter with this incredible proverb that she's like, she goes, this is how I remember it. I hope this is it. Unless the lionesses have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
Can you say it again?
Yeah, I know.
That's so proud, isn't it?
Unless the lionesses have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
That is so good.
Isn't that everything?
It is so good.
Does anyone else think that's
mic drop? That's it. I know, right?
It is. It's like, whew.
Yeah. It's like incredible. And
it's so awesome. That is just, it's really hitting me now.
So
like,
thank you, Maya, for writing it in the chat too. So yeah, get a screenshot of that out of the chat if you need to. That's beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's everything. And then she adds in a quote from Zora Neale Hurston, which says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story." Which goes back to Tala, what you said about the pain of not being listened to, right? Or so many of us have been in relationships where we were not valued and where we didn't have the safety to speak our truth.
We are the lionesses.
Yes. Yeah. And so recognizing that when we haven't felt safe or haven't felt able to tell our story, that it's like, it's weighing on our hearts. So she says, you can get ready to speak your dreams. There is power in naming your truth, she says. You can set an intention, you can make a promise and make your dreams start to take shape in the world by speaking them out loud. And she really gives a lot of instruction in here about how to be able to work towards this of speaking it out loud. I mean, sometimes people are not in a place where they have safety to speak it out loud, right? But you might have safety when you take care of yourself and do your own breathing practice, do your own meditation, prayer practice, have a safe place that you write or on your own. You might start to recognize, I'm right here with myself. I can speak this to myself. And then you might find one other person who's safe to speak this to. So she says, once we recognize that we have the power to find the solution within us, which is just recognizing what is your hunger. When we begin to hear the stirrings of our own heart, pointing us to something greater than who we are, we find the answer to the great hunger. Yes, Tala.
I just brought up, I don't know if you guys feel this, but there seems to be a sense of society which is probably very in a male-dominated way, I would say, where there is strength in holding your, emotions, your stories, and your secrets, and yourself. So the strength is that you don't share it, because if I don't have to share it, I'm strong. And there is this, I think, something that is recognized in society as strength, which maybe for some of us, definitely for me, feels weird, but has taken me, however old I am, to realize it's weird. But there is a societal idea of strength in silence, to hold in my own shit, basically.
Yeah.
Especially in like work environments. I'm just gonna add that, not to cut you off, but like in professional settings, like I don't know, or even for
so many situations, and I also think, I don't know what you guys think about this. I think the pandemic has kind of pushed some of us, because we were so stuck with ourselves. Silence suddenly just seemed like a ridiculous idea, because we were alone enough. It was like, well, I'll just quiet fucking home. Come on, get out. Like, that was just my thoughts of what you just said.
Wow.
So if I could piggyback on your thoughts, and my mother and my grandmother are never going to watch this, but I think that you're completely right that strength is equal to silence in the male-dominated world, and it might be because of all of the abuse that's hidden. And for me, my grandma in my whole life has been super silent and strong. And for some reason, I was never curious to know why. I just thought that's her generation. She's old-fashioned. It's actually called the silent generation. And she was born in 1931 in the Philippines, where there were so many American soldiers, so many Japanese soldiers. And she didn't tell me the story, but it's in, I think in one of the Teller, where they shared my story. My grandma actually, with her family, hid in the jungle and like pulled her sister by the hair out of the river during World War II, when I think they were probably preteens.
My God.
And I read around that time that I guess the Japanese had taken in, you know, children of that age, of my grandma's age, as care women. Is that what the comfort women? And so it clicked like right away why my grandma has always been so silent and so strong. Because what if she let it out and she just couldn't stop crying? Like, what would that look like? I mean, I don't know if that happened to her, but in that time, I just can't imagine that she didn't know anybody that went through that. And I just feel like decades and decades and decades and decades of those teachings and things like that happening, like, it's ingrained in us, and it's like our time to stop it.
I watched someone, Tabitha Brown. Do you watch her? This vegan black cook. She's amazing. She just sort of talks about her family and she does her thing. And she sort of talked the other day about sort of black families and silence and secrets. And she talked about the fact that it's probably from slavery and having to keep those secrets and that generational thing. And like, I'm mixed race, so my mum's a therapist. I was never punished. It was like, how do you feel about that? Why would you do it? I was like, oh my God, just Grammy. And then I've got my black side that's like, I hear from some random person that my uncle went to prison. No one talks about it. No one knows anything. Then my dad had stuff. No one talks, you know, it's very, oh God, it's recorded. But anyway, it's all secret, secret, secret. And I was always like, I don't get it. How can they not just do it like we do it? But without, you know, asking me about my feelings. And then when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, actually, that makes a lot of sense. That is like a lot of generational secrets and secrets and secrets and keeping it. And, you know, you're not going to tell someone if they're going to run, and that just stays. And that has stayed in families for years. Yeah, and it was quite a, I mean, it only just clicked for me about a week ago, that one, which is what you're saying, which is, again, synergy, but interesting.
Yeah, so there's a danger in speaking out. Danger of not being believed, danger of your safety is threatened, danger of I won't be able to cope with how I feel.
And women have had it for so many years, but I feel like there's still some things there, but we're kind of nearly there, aren't we? There now, it's like we've got to. It's up to us to come out and break the cycle, I think.
We're almost there. There's just still some people that say things like, I would be so scared to be a man right now. But a woman said that to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what do you mean? I love being a woman, but I would not hate to be a man. Like, come on.
We're not coming for you. We're not coming for you. We're coming for ourselves. We're literally just coming for ourselves and saying, we're here. We're done. We have history to show that we have not been seen or listened to for many years, and there's no reason for it. And right now, we're ready to say, we are here. And no one is deleting you. No one is canceling men. You are still here. And the more you give us space, the more space you will have. The more you won't have toxic masculinity. You hopefully will have less suicide, which is a massive problem with young men, because of what the world expects of you. And what the world expects of you is in direct correlation to what the world expects of us. And neither of those things need to happen. And right. We're feeling that we're done. So don't call us sensitive. Don't say we're being hysterical, because we are here for everyone. And we actually just want to live in a nice, harmonious earth before it all blows up, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is this idea, well, not this idea, but this is this thing of if you give yourself this permission to reclaim your voice and awaken the storyteller within you and be the storyteller of your life, not keeping it silent, not keeping it tamped down. Feel your feelings, move through them, and figure out what is it that I want.
For all of us, all of the us. Definitely, yeah.
This is what Tererai Trent is talking about in her book. Think about who you want to be, talk about who you want to be, introduce yourself as who you are. She said in Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert shared a story of people introducing themselves. Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm an author. You know, people might say, "Oh, where is your book published?" I'll be like, "Oh, well, it'll eventually be published after I finish writing." That's the kind of author. But I am an author. Actually, I know I've got 3 or 4 books in me, and it's to get them on the paper is the task right now. But she says, "What if you introduce yourself as who you want to be?"
I was on a trip a few years ago, and not a few, like maybe 20, and 15, 20, I don't know. I took a trip on my own, and I was in the hotel room or in an inn, and I was writing in a journal, and someone came in and I said, "Oh, I'm I'm writing my book." That was so long ago. What I thought I was writing, you know, I've always wanted to write, but it's just it was the funniest thing. I'm writing a book, and that I mean, nothing ever came of that, but it was just the writing, and it was just really funny. It just, I mean, that moment.
Cindy, that was just when you got started. That's all.
And you know what? I've been writing poetry. I've been writing all my life, but I've never done it out loud. And since I don't know if everyone was in with the Unmade Bed, like when Teller all started.
Oh yeah.
That's how I found, you know, happened upon Azure and Elizabeth Gilbert chatting and laughing and making me laugh, and it took me that whole month to send in a poem for the end, like for the anthology.
Pivot and pause, yeah.
And I was you know, I'm reading everyone's posts online. I'm like, oh, they're so good. And I just thought, but what's my, yeah, it's like, what's my, pardon me?
Were you writing it by yourself but not posting it?
I wasn't posting. I was just kind of.
But you were
writing a little bit, but not, I don't know. It was really, I was writing, but I just thought, oh, you know, look what everybody's writing. It's so eloquent and so beautiful. And I just thought, what is my community going to think when I post? Like, what, I didn't have that confidence, I guess. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened this year, maybe I thought, let it out. And I've just been writing, it's just been such a positive experience. And everyone has, your words has led, you know, has taken me on this journey to me, just like, here I am. This is, you know, like it or not, like, just these are my words. There. Right.
I'm so happy that you are giving yourself permission to share, that you put a poem in. And this, you know, what she's talking about in this chapter. She says, our stories have magic. Our stories have magic. When we tell our stories have magic. And I wanted to say, tellers, we're already so good at this. And those of you who aren't tellers yet, maybe Rebecca and Lisa could become tellers. Tell your stories with us. You can respond to writing prompts. The thing is, it's just such a neat thing to let yourself use your voice in whatever way. One line, we have people doing haikus, people writing short, long responses to things. Some people don't post much, but they just interact. So anybody who's telling their story is a teller. So you being here.
You know I'll do it.
Aha, yes. Yes. Yeah, Lisa.
Well, I already write an article every other month for an online magazine that is local. And it has to be about how creativity can work in your life. And I've been doing it for 2 years. And after a while, you're like, what the heck am I going to write about this time? So it's teaching me to trust that there's something larger than me anyways working through me. I'm just the vessel. And it's weird when I do a meditation beforehand, and all of a sudden it just pours out of me. And I have way too many words. I got to cut it way back so I can stay within the parameters, and you're like, I thought I had nothing to write. And it's like, it bangs out in an hour. It's the craziest thing. It's crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready
That's
yourself
awesome.
for it. You ready yourself to tell what you know, to tell what's in your heart. And you're an artist, and you're an art teacher, and you're helping people unblock what keeps them blocked for their creativity, So
fun.
What a gift.
Yeah.
What a huge gift.
Oh, thank you.
We are a little bit over our hour mark. And so I would love to, anybody who hasn't shared or wants to share about getting this idea of, could I get practice at telling the story of my dreams? Can I allow myself to even think about them or write them down? If anybody has any kind of thoughts about that you want to share, I'd love to hear from you. If Rebecca, if you want to share, or Maya, if you want to share.
Well, Heidi, and everybody here, I just really enjoyed listening to all of what you're saying and following Teller online. I think there's some kind of synergy there. Someone mentioned that, I think, in a typed message. There's something happening with the Teller community. And I think it's a really beautiful and very empowering thing. And my daughter is one of the contributors. So she brought me into Teller. And so, I've always supported Shelley. I call her Shelley, but she's Michelle to you all. But, I've always supported her with her writing. And, but it's just so beautiful to see this community supporting each other, building and growing and empowering each other. It's just, I think it's so necessary in our world right now, because I think, like what Cindy was saying, there are just so many people, whatever background, whatever sex, whatever orientation, they don't feel seen. And I think we're seeing the consequences of that every day, everywhere. And it doesn't, I think that if we could have more of these voices that are creative, that are tuned into, like Lisa was saying, and I think what Cindy and Lisa Fusco was saying, when we're meditating, or when we're quiet, when we ask to be given something comes through us. And I think when we capture that, I know Liz Gilbert talks about that in The Big Magic, maybe. When we catch that and we ride with it and we put it down and we put it out there, it's just healing. It's just really healing. And I think we really need that, especially, this came about in COVID, in this year of COVID, when, the first chapter, What Breaks Your Heart, I called Shelley and said, well, I'm on the first chapter, and the first question is, well, what breaks my heart? And it's like, everything. I mean, that's the way I feel. Everything. Everything's breaking my heart. So, yeah, there's so much suffering, but I think this is a very healing answer to that suffering. And so I just want to encourage you all, and I just love reading what you write, and I love listening. So keep going, keep going.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. And do you like to go by, do you go by Becky or Rebecca?
I'm sorry?
What name do you like to be called, Rebecca or Becky?
Oh, it doesn't matter, either one. Either one. I
Rebecca.
put Rebecca because it's on my
Account.
email. Yeah, so either one is fine.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to read what Lisa put in the comments. She said, what Rebecca is saying goes right back to where we started, Tala, right where you said, Tala, women finding their collective voice and coming together. Yeah, it really is. And then in the comments in the chat, Jen said maybe everyone should make a vision board of what are we wanting, what are we dreaming about? Is that what you meant, Jen?
Yes.
Yeah, I do love vision boards. Oh my God.
Vision poem. Write a poem about your visions and dreams. I haven't done mine yet. It was my therapist's assignment to me.
Ooh.
I still haven't done it.
You know, this month these conversations are going to continue because you know, there's more to come in this book, and I think it's, you know, it's something we've been talking about in the Teller community for quite a while. You know, what do we want to let go of, right? What baton do we want to drop? Don't want to carry this baton. You know, she talked about in her family, her grandmother was running this race of trying to survive in the world. I'm just going to pass down, you know, childhood marriage and poverty and illiteracy to my next daughter. And then that grandmother passed it on to the mother, and the mother passed it on to Tererai. And Tererai is like, I don't want this baton. I don't want to keep handing this down. So to let go of figuring out what you want to let go of is incredible. Lisa says, I have a vision board with Heidi on it because she's a rock star. Great inspiration. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, Lisa and I have a conversation about one of our shared vision board ideas is running a workshop together, teaching together.
Yeah.
And I
would love that.
And we'll do art stuff. So that's gonna happen. We don't know how and when. But that's the idea of your dreams. And she does talk about this in this chapter of awakening. You know, these chapters of awakening, planning your dreams. You don't have to know how they're going to happen. She did not know. Tererai did not know when she planted her dreams. Her dreams were, I want to go to America. I want to get my bachelor's degree, my master's, and my doctorate. And her mom said, what's she going to do with those 4 dreams? And she was like, oh, I'm going to come back and help change the path for girls in our country. And her mom's like, no, that's a good dream. That's a sacred dream. Like that dream, like makes all the other stuff really gonna, like, you know, pop. It's like amazing. So these ideas of our dreams, let ourselves do them. Terai's like, I have no idea how I'm gonna get to America, how I'm gonna get to school, how I'm gonna complete not 1, not 2, not 3 degrees. How am I gonna do that? How am I gonna go back to Zimbabwe and help uplift all these women and girls? She had no idea how any of that was gonna happen. Her mom's like, you don't got to know. You just have the dream, and then you think about it, and then you let yourself think about, like, that's going to feel amazing. I don't know how that's going to happen, but like, and so Tererai, she sat down and she opened up her little note where she wrote her dreams, and she just started to think about, I'm going to get on a plane someday. She'd never been on a plane. She didn't know how she was going to afford a ticket or do any of that. She's like, let me just bypass that stuff and just get to the, like, it's going to feel amazing part. But she started to allow herself to feel how good that stuff would be.
Well, and Gabby Bernstein talks about that, how the universe is conspiring all the time to help fulfill those dreams for you. You just got to put them out there, and it wants you to have them. It wants to move you along.
That's true. The universe is designed to delight us, surprise and delight us.
Yeah. I think that's so true. 3 years ago, I put things on my vision board and also didn't know how or what. and they've all come true. Granted, I didn't ask for $1 million. That wasn't on there.
Right. Silly.
I did have, and I think, I don't know if you guys heard this, say this before or not. I had a dream, not a dream, but on my vision board, essentially, I was like, I'm going to get published in 2020. And I'm like, and I have a poem in Pivot and Pause. I was like, hey, universe.
That was one of mine too.
I was like, well, I didn't see that coming. That's cool. I mean, because that dream was from obviously a few years before that. But I'm like, well, that's not exactly how I envisioned it. But like, I'm gonna take that as the universe going like, yeah, we gotcha. Keep dreaming, keep thinking about it. So I am so happy that y'all showed up tonight so we could talk about all this stuff together. Thank you for being here.
Can I share?
Thank you for having us.
Oh yes, Maya, please.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So I was reading this. I just some of you know I've been living in Tijuana, Mexico, but I'm from Miami, and I've been struggling these past few weeks and kind of impromptu decided to come home. So I was on a plane last night and was reading this book, and there's a lot of things that really hit me. I'm on chapter 3, but actually no, chapter 2. The idea of belonging really kind of like stung me because that's one of the ways that I silence myself. And I almost, out of a fear of not belonging, it's like a deeply internalized like social conditioning of what my life is like supposed to look like. You know, about 12 years ago when I was in my late 20s, I decided I wanted to go back to school. And it was either creative writing or law. And what do you think I chose? I chose law, right? And so it's like I kind of buried like the artist inside, and now I'm bringing her back up. But it was just this like deep, deep, deep fear of like stepping out of like this path that had been determined, you know, from my parents, but even before then, like, this is what you do, professional and education. I mean, kind of very different from Tererai, because she probably would have been like, hell yeah, like my parents want me to be a lawyer, you know, obviously very different opportunities. So I don't want to act like I'm not grateful for the opportunities I've had for education, but it wasn't like my soul calling. But I did decide at that juncture that the reason I was doing it was very similar. Like I wanted to have the power to help uplift women and girls. And so I have really sought all opportunities in my legal career. Like I work a lot with immigrants and a lot of domestic violence victims and asylum seekers. I'm primarily an immigration lawyer, which is how I ended up in Mexico. But lately it's been feeling like it's shifting, you know, the dream is shifting. And last week when we had the workshop, I don't know who was on it, but I got super emotional just about my own like
Cafe, right?
What?
You were in a cafe? Were you?
Yeah, I was in a cafe. I was like on a hike, and then I was like in a restaurant, and anyway, but it was all about how I felt really lonely about not having kids. And the other really like deeply internalized thing is like this idea of a spinster that I feel like is like something I've wanted to avoid at all costs, but yet like it's kind of like what I am in the traditional sense. Like I'm 41, I've never been married, I don't have kids, and I'm single. And so part of me was, then I started brainstorming, like, wouldn't it be fun or interesting to get a group of like so-called spinsters together and like try to write about what, you know, redefine what that is, or dig into what those experiences really are, to kind of try to like remove the stigma. Because
like reclaiming the throne.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
you know,
on the spinsters.
Spin it. That's right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You can.
anyway, and I mean, I have all these other dreams that I kind of got scared, and I kind of was like, okay, we'll just think about that later. Let's just keep reading. Like, it's almost like I almost don't allow myself to go there because I get so scared of how it's going to come out, how to make it happen, and confused about how, how I'm going to get from point A to point B, and just like the pressures of making money and all that, so anyway.
Jennifer.
I feel you.
Yeah, like I launched, so I'll just give you guys a little backstory. I left here to go work with an NGO in Tijuana, and then the pandemic hit. And then I decided this is a year to write my novel. Like, I've always wanted to write a book. It's like this quiet in the world. I'm going to do it. So I quit my job and I worked on the novel, and I wrote my first draft last year. And then in January, I was like, okay, I got to start making money now. So what do I do? Go back to law. So now, like, it's been 6 months that I have my own practice while trying to work on the second draft. And it's just has not been working. So anyway, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm like reverting back to law because it feels like the safe option, but it's just not where my heart lies. So this is my work to do, but I don't want it to feel like work. I want it to feel easy and just clear. So I'm putting that out there with you all. Thank you for listening as I bare my soul here.
That's so good.
Can I direct message you, Maya? I have some things to say.
Or you can say them. I mean,
Same thing.
Well, we're over
then
in
people
time,
have to
and my
know.
thoughts are not fully, formed.
sure, fair
Well,
enough.
I mean, just be mindful, right? We're recording this as the book club discussion, and I still think all of this is within that purview of that for sure. I
True.
really appreciate everyone being open and sharing, because it's going to make this really rich for anyone listening in. And hello, people who are listening in.
Yes.
But because these questions are so worthy. You are worthy of exploring that. You are worthy of taking that time. And if you get yourself a little bit freaked out and you just decide, I'm just going to read the next chapter and answer those questions later, that's okay, because you can come back to it. You have the book. You have the book. It's okay how you do it. But emotion is important for us to pay attention to. And it is, of course, it feels better if we can share that with somebody, so you're not alone in these experiences, Maya.
Thank you.
Feeling this stuff deeply. Lisa and Jen, did you have something you wanted to respond, or is everybody okay with our time? I guess
I just wanted to say that everything that Maya said sounded so much like an awakened woman. So even that dilemma is just part of this process. That's all I wanted to throw in to you. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Oh, thank you for that. That's a spin that I like. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right where you're supposed to be.
I wonder if
we
we stop recording and then have a last 5 minutes of goodbye.
We could.
Just if anyone wants to.
I think Heidi needs to go.
No, I don't have to go. No, my husband's off playing with his friend, and he's like, I'm gonna go out with my friend Jordan. Like, that's good. No, if you guys like, I can stop the recording and then we can do our own sign off. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so for people who want to be here for the full thing next time, please tune in live. Because